G'day guys, Gordon at Blue Tongue Industries. The Atom Sonic getting on in age now, and I just wanted to run you through how we go about changing a motor on a vacuum head assembly. So twin motor, 1400 watt each, so a total of 2800 watt, and I just wanted to run you through. Now I must reiterate that you need to be competent at carrying out the task, and at a minimum you need a PAT test, so a test and tag following the accomplishment of a particular task. If you're not competent, do seek electrical advice, an electrical contractor or someone similar to be able to do the task, and mandatory at the end, a test and tag. Let's run you through changing the motor on the SkyVac Atom Sonic. So the vacuum head assembly is multi-layer. So to change the particular motor, we're actually going to break into this layer around here. So there's actually 8 Phillips head screws which I've pre-removed from the layer. We're actually going to leave the upper layer, these screws here, and we're going to dive straight in and break it here at these particular assembly point. So once we've undone all the screws, it's going to give us access to underneath the assembly. And what we need to do, if you can see in there and it's not too dark, we have a band clamp around a duct. So that band clamp needs to be loosened and that hose needs to be pried back to enable you to disassemble and remove the head assembly to get into the next layer. So that band clamp and that flex hose actually goes to the exhaust, which is the blow port function of this Atom Sonic. So I'll go ahead and remove that band clamp and slide that hose back, and we'll get access to the next stage. I've undone that band clamp. This is probably the most awkward part of the whole job, undoing that band clamp, which I can then take the vacuum upper section and put it to the side. So this will expose then the next layer that we need to get to disassemble to access the motors. So on top of each motor we also have a ducting shroud like this. If you're initially changing the motor or motors, this ducting shroud will be contacted here to the motor assembly. So what I suggest is getting a heat gun and applying a bit of heat around the edge of the motor assembly, which will allow you to pry up the ducting shroud and retain it for the next motor assembly to go back in. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to pull the remaining screws. So we've got 3 screws in this particular layer. We've got 1, 2, and then 3 over here. We're going to remove those screws. We're also going to remove the screws for the motor assemblies. So each motor has 4 screws, which hold the motor to the casing itself. So there's 4 screws around the motor, and 3 screws in the center for the total ducting. So I'll go ahead and pre-pull those, and I'll show you the next step. I've jumped ahead here and I've pulled the 3 screws in the center shroud, 1, 2, and 1 over the back there, which I haven't done, and the 4 screws on each motor. So those screws hold the motor to the casing. What I didn't tell you about, and I forgot to tell you about, is there's also 1 earthing screw, which has a metal insert thread for the earth assembly, and that is attached on the outside, so that also needs to be pulled. So we'll put that aside, and we'll remove the 3 screws and the 4 screws from each motor. 4 there, 4 here, 1 around the back. So now we're able to separate the casings to get access to the motor. I just wanted to show you the wiring assembly. So each switch has two wires running to the switch, and the wires are retained in the receptacle. So if we look at this particular tab here, that tab there needs to be pushed in with a small screwdriver to be able to release the wire. If I pull on the wire, they are a spade bit, but being 240 volt, they're mechanically locked in. So you can't actually pull the wires out without depressing the metal tag to release the wire. So we'll go ahead and release the four wires, which run back to the switches, and we'll get ready for the next stage. So having removed the wires, and the wires are cable locked to each other, so a set of cable tied wires will go to an individual motor, like so. So keep the cables ties together for the individual reconnection. So now we've separated, removed the wiring. The heat shields on top of this particular system, if you're on an initial change, we'll find will be glued on. So use a hot air gun to remove, like so. And now I can actually separate the two casings. So separation is quite simple. So we can simply lift that section off to get access to the motor assemblies. So the motors sit in this particular casing here, 1400 watts each. Each motor assembly has an upper and lower gasket. So when you remove the motor, do make sure that the gaskets, the rubber O-ring at the bottom of the motor is reinstalled onto the motor, because they don't actually come with the motor. When you're doing an inspection, these are the particular float valves which sit in the cavity to help with water ingress into the motors. So make sure they're installed and the right way up, and there's two of those in place there. So reinsertion is reverse of what we've done, and we will secure the rubber O-rings or grommets or seats to each motor, top and bottom, as seen. We'll sit the motors back in. If the vacuum needs a clean at this particular point with the motors removed, you can take the unit outside and give it a good scrub. When we put the casing back on the next level, the allocation holes for the motor will need to correspond with the secondary level. So the motors may need to be rotated to line up the four screws. So do take note. One earth strap, and you can see where we pulled those screws previously. So we'll go back now and reassemble. So we'll grab the upper section and slide that back over. Just like that. Get those sitting right. So if you can see there, the locating holes for the motor, before we screw the main screws down in the center, we need to position the allocation for the holes for the motor and line them up with each individual tag here. So I've moved those around to line up. So just double check before you tighten everything up. Just start all the screws separately. The earthing screw is back around yonder, and the earthing screw, the one we removed here, picks up on the stud with the metal insert there, so that can't really go back in a different spot. So that earthing screw will pick up over here. Start all the screws, and once they're started, we'll nip them up. So we'll jump forward to that step. So what we've done is lightly installed all the screws all the way around, the three in the center and the 4 on each motor. So we've made sure that we've got positive engagement on those particular screws, and then we can go ahead and nip up all those once they've started. So we know we're in the right place and the earth screw is attached. So we'll go fast forward, we'll do up all those screws and get this vacuum back together. So we've done up all the screws. We'll grab the wiring now, and it's as simple as pushing down each wire, and if you can hear, you may even hear the click as the wire goes in. Not secure because I was able to pull that back out. If I had a small little screwdriver and pushed down on that receptacle and double checking that can't be pulled out, so that now is locked and engaged. So we'll do that to all 4. Just move around to the adjoining side, the first motor. There we go. And you can see that it's positively engaged and won't pull out unless we push on the tab to release that pin. So all the particular wiring harnesses and all the parts associated with the SkyVacs you can see at bluetongueindustries.com.au, our main website, or skyvacaustralia.com.au. On the Blue Tongue Industries website, it's quite intensive, the breakdown, so you'll be able to get all the parts, the motors, wiring harnesses, switches, even the shroud assemblies for the vacuum if ever it gets dropped, they can all be replaced. 2 more wires and we'll move closer to finishing this task. So we're now ready for the next step. The air exhaust for the motor, you can see the foam up under the casing there, so they're going to mate with the top of the ductings for each particular motor assembly. So, and then the exhaust duct will run through the center back onto the exhaust outlet. So what I find best with the shrouds is a little bit of contact adhesive, some 3M contact adhesive. If it's painted around the edge and then painted on the shroud assembly, they can be pushed back and they'll give you a quick cure time to be able to re-secure those particular ducts, air exit ducts for the particular motors. Those air exit ducts will mount with the foam rings on the top. So all it is now is, with those ducting secure, is re-engaging the air duct, the exhaust air duct, onto the flange, which is probably the most difficult task, and then securing the band clamp. So we'll push that duct back on and secure the band clamp. Once that's done, we can then get onto the final screws, 8 screws around the outside. So once we've got the air duct back on and the shrouds are on each particular motor, we can then just place the top or the final section back on. So it's as simple as positioning that in place to line up the existing screws around the outside. So once we're happy all the screws are able to start, we can then just go through and nip up those 8 screws around the outside. And as I reiterated in the first comment, the most important step now is to carry out a PAT test, or a test and tag as it's also referred to. So you need a qualification for that. So if you were to accomplish this task yourself, it's mandatory that you seek professional advice and get a test and tag. So you could probably Google that in your service, and that'll be a on a special device. They'll give you compliance and have a set date if you're in the cleaning industry to get that item retested and tagged like all your electrical equipment should be. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you like this video, check us out on online, Blue Tongue Industries, and you can see all our videos on YouTube under Blue Tongue Industries, and appreciate you watching, and catch you on the next video. Thanks guys. Atom Sonic, Motor Change.